Okay.
Okay. So the first kind of thing we're going to talk about is the difference between a role mentor or a role model and a mentor. So just if I was to say, what's the difference between a role model and a mentor? What would you guys think?
Role model is less engaged, where mentor is more engaged.
Okay. What else?
Before reading the chapter, I would have said there's not really a difference.
Okay.
But after reading the chapter,
You figure it out.
You don't always know your role model. Personally.
You know your mentor.
Yeah.
Okay.
once we define this, I would ask the question, what's more valuable, a role model or a mentor?
Okay. One of the things that I liked that it says in here is the role model. It says the role model inspires others to emulate the attributes or attitudes that make him or her an exceptional person. So I have a lot of role models in my life, but I also have various mentors. And when, in my opinion, when someone can actually do both of those things at the same time and infuse those together, where you're a role model and a mentor, that's where I get the mentor of my life, Bill Birch. But there's a big time difference. So, do we understand the difference between a role model and a mentor? Kinda, yeah. So another thing that it says, mentors, I mean, mentors are kind of like, they're like guides. It uses specifically a trusted advisor, a guide, or a counselor. And then there's peer mentors as well, which do those kind of things, but they're peer. You're gonna say something?
I just have the image in my head, like a role model, like a good role model, could be like, I just imagine like people going on a hike, right, get to use a safari in the jungle, but like they have like a something in the distance that they're headed towards. That's the role model, like he's the thing they're headed towards. But the mentor is their guide, like helping them like overcome the snake pits and like the logs and the natives.
Sweet.
So
I like that. Okay, so now I'll ask the question that he asked. Do we feel like one's more important than the other? Or which one would be more important or equally important?
I think you need both.
I think well, but that's the thing, like, I think you need both, but at a certain percent, you need that guide to get you there. But is really the end result more important than the journey itself?
That's a good question.
I mean, you could try and go it alone, but then you might get bit by a snake, or
On safari?
yeah. I mean, like people try and go it alone all the time. But on the other hand, if you don't have that end goal, and if we're skewing just straight back, but if we don't have that end goal, then where is our mentor taking us? Then you're just kind of like mercy the mentor. What if he's your mentor? Yeah.
So is it important, do you feel like it would be important to have your mentor always be a role model? No? Why?
Well, I'm just actually thinking, as I always do, to things of the past. I'm thinking of Lewis and Clark in Sacagawea, and how in Lewis and Clark, they couldn't have made it on their own. Sacagawea wasn't a role model or somebody they necessarily looked up to, but they trusted her, and by the end, they loved her so much that I can't remember if it was Lewis or Clark, adopted her daughter after she died. So no, I don't think you have to be a role model and a mentor. It'd be nice to be a role model and a mentor.
And that's exactly as I was thinking. I mean, the mentor that I had when I took 1000 was very much a mentor to me. She was not very much a role model. There were certain aspects where I was like, okay, yeah, I'd like to be like her with this. But I had other role models in my life that were really driving my life. This is what I want to become like this person. But she was my mentor for my college success class, for learning how to be a successful college student. But definitely not anything really beyond in my greater aspirations of my life. So I completely agree with Kellen on that. Does anybody else have any other opinions on whether you need to be, or that a mentor should be a role model as well?
Well, I think it's good that they don't have to be the one and the same, because your mentor, she was able to affect everyone in the class just by being a mentor, And whereas maybe only one or even none of the people, and that's perfectly okay, to choose her as a role model. So.
So for some people, they are mentors and role models, even the same person.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Any other comment? Okay, we're going to jump to my favorite part of this whole book. And it is a word that I constantly use and a word that I constantly talk about, and it's just so big to me. And it came up after Kellen's presentation when we were kind of talking, and it was like a perfect segue into what we were going to talk about today. And my key focus is authenticity. What is authenticity? Definition. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is a good definition or not, but I think it kind of goes back to the whole personality thing that I just did, like, everybody's different, and authenticity shows it.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else?
I think it also goes back to when I was talking to Haley about like trying to impress people. If you are just trying to be yourself and not really worried what other people think, then in that aspect you're becoming authentic, and like you're kind of essentially you're freeing yourself. You're allowing yourself to become free and to flourish in your environment. And like maybe they might like you, they might not like you, but they will like the fact about you that you are authentic. I have a lot of friends and they're crazy. Like they're crazy, and so but like I might not agree with everything that they do, but I'm grateful that they're authentic, and their authenticity gives me permission to be authentic to myself.
Awesome. And that's one of the main reasons that as a mentor, you need to be authentic. As a leader, as a person in general, we need to have that authenticity. Because if we have it, then we inspire others to be able to show us their authenticity as well. And time again, especially in our program, I'm just blown away by how really different we all are. Because when I was going through and thinking about getting into becoming a mentor, I always thought, well, I have to be this specific type of person. Because leaders are always specific type of people. They always have these roles, they always do this, they always have this, they're always these kind of people. But that's not a mentor. You will have different people that you deal with in your life that need something that only you can offer. And if you're not being who you are, then you're not going to be able to help them. Okay? So one thing in the book that I liked a lot that I wrote down is in the authenticity section. It says, honesty is not perfect. We all have flaws, right? We all have things that we know that we need to work on. In being authentic is showing those flaws. Being able to admit that they're there and not afraid to allow others to see them. And also, authenticity is accepting your limitations. Because we all have them. And when we are truly authentic, truly honest with ourselves and truly honest with others, we'll know when we've reached too much and when we need to ask for help. I've done this a lot. I do this a lot still to this day, is see where I'm lacking and I ask for support and help. And I can only do that because I've been authentic with the relationships that I have, of the different teachers that I've worked with, of my personal relationships and everything else. The only reason that I get that support and that help with my limitations and with my downfalls is because of the authenticity in the relationship. Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Yeah.
I think that I agree with you 100%. I think that authenticity is key. If you're on a first date and you're pretending to someone else you're not, then are you really going to want to be with that person for the rest of your life, being someone new that you're not? And like also, it's like something else not related to that at all, but if you're going to progress as a person, as an individual, you need to take an honest self-assessment of where you are. You need to be authentic of who you are now and be okay with being a work in progress I think that's, so many people struggle with that. So many people struggle with that, myself included. Be okay with being a work in progress in order to, you have to know where you are in order to get where you're going. And like, if you're lost and you keep denying and telling yourself you're somewhere else, or even if you just want to be somewhere else and you know you're in a different place, you're never going to get to where you really need to be. And it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be broken sometimes, but as long as you're willing to still work forward, then I don't know. I just feel authenticity is key.
Completely agree. Does anybody else have any comments on authenticity? Has anybody dealt with it, like 100% completely not authentic person?
Well, not
Does anybody-
100%, but.
But quiet. You shot your hand up like you have dealt with 100% non-authentic person.
Yeah.
How is that?
Okay, so my dad, he has PTSD, but he won't admit he has PTSD. And we race lawnmowers, right? And he's trying to get the lawnmower association to run and go, because it's kind of dying out. But to me and my family, he'll be like, oh, I just want to stop doing this, oh, blah, blah, blah. It sucks. These people suck. Let's not do it. But then he'll turn around and be to the next person, oh, you have to do this, and his tone of voice will change. He will be a totally different person. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. It totally is. That's his nickname. I mean, that's literally who he is. And it is PTSD, but it is that.
Yeah.
So,
It's very difficult to work with
yeah.
because you don't know which person you're getting, whether you're getting a Jekyll or whether you're getting